which one is better?
We may have a new contender for best day at work ever.
Welcome to Drive Review. Later in the show, we'll get to know the Toyota GR Corolla and Honda Civic Type R before we set them loose on a track.
Oh, tuck in, tuck in.
But before we rev things up, let's take a look at the fully electric Kia EV9.
So you want to go electric, but you have to go big. Maybe you've got a big family, or you just love the idea of having lots of space inside your car. The 2024 Kia EV9 comes in 3 different specification levels, and we've got the entry-level Air in this review. It's priced from $97,000 plus on-road costs, which sits at below Earth, which is $106,500, and the top spec GT line, which is $121,000 before on-road costs. So while there is an Earth spec EV9, unfortunately for those fans of old school funk music, there is no wind or fire spec. Standard equipment here includes twin 12.3-inch infotainment displays, fake leather seats with heating and ventilation up front, 3-zone climate control, an 8-speaker sound system, wireless phone charging, and interior LED lighting. There's also a heated steering wheel and electric tailgate. On the outside, there's LED projector headlights, 19-inch alloy wheels, rain-sensing wipers, power folding mirrors, and retracting door handles. Air is the only rear-wheel drive variant in the range, with a single electric motor making 160 kilowatts and 350 newton meters. Our battery size here is 76.1 kilowatt hours, but a more efficient single-motor drivetrain means the claimed driving range is still decent with the Air, at 443 kilometers claimed on the WLTP cycle. All EV9s run on a more expensive 800-volt electric architecture, which allows for 350 kilowatt fast charging capability. That means the EV9 Air can go from 10 to 80% in as little as 15 minutes on an ultra-fast charger, according to Kia's claims. It's over 5 meters long, it's nearly 2 meters wide, and it's also almost 1.8 meters high overall. So yes, it's massive. The wheelbase is quite long, typical of a lot of electric cars, but in this spec, we've only got rear-wheel drive. The EV9 gets access to the Kia Connect app functionality, which allows for things like remote locking and unlocking, operating windows and lights, as well as checking the location and charging status of the car from your phone. So here's the interior of the base spec EV9, and I actually had to recheck my notes and ensure that we got in the right car because it doesn't really feel like a base spec vehicle. This EV9 is pretty cool, but also practical. Let's run through that to start with. 2 large cup holders here. They're a great size. You've got a wireless charging pad just behind there, and then further back again, a small center console storage area. If you want to fit bigger stuff, that is further down the front here. Nice big open storage bin. It's massive. You can fit handbags and all that sort of bulky stuff in there. Nice open dashboard here. There are some buttons for getting through your navigation setup as well. But then you've actually got physical air conditioning controls. Your power outlets are located down the front here. You've got 2 USB-C points and also a pop-out 12-volt infotainment. It's a big 12.3-inch infotainment display here. Now that's got a large digital instrument cluster as well. Now the thing that threw me about this Air spec was actually the fact that it's got heated and vented front seats. No memory, but it does have a heated steering wheel as well. So you do feel like you're getting a good car for the money, I suppose. All right, I'm Piggy in the middle in the second row here. I've got a baby seat with ISOFIX tether points used on each side. And as you can see, I can actually fit quite comfortably into the middle here. But anyway, let's take these out and see what it looks like with a human in the back. Baby seats are out and I am in, and now I can show you a bit of a better idea of how big this EV9 is in the second row. Firstly, as we always do, legroom. That's my driving position up front there. I'm a little bit under 6 foot tall, but look at that amount of space we've got. We've got mountains of legroom there. Headroom, we've got a lot as well. We've got 2 cup holders there. We've got USB-C power outlets. We've got some extra cup holders here. Let's move this seat back a little. Vents are there, and also the controls are there as well. They can be controlled from up the front and turned off. But otherwise, there's good visibility, there's good comfort, and most importantly, bucket loads of space. Now, in my opinion, it's not much chop if you've got a 7-seater, but you lose all of your boot space in the process of having that third row. The good news here, as you can see, this is full 7-seat mode in the EV9 at the moment. Underneath, unfortunately, you're not going to find a spare wheel either, because you've got a luggage blind in here and a tyre repair kit. So a goo kit for these big 19-inch wheels. This is definitely a proper 7-seat SUV.
Coming up, we take the Kia EV9 on a test drive. Welcome back to Drive Review. Before we wind up our pair of hot hatches, let's take a cruise in the spacious electric Kia EV9.
A large part of the driving experience in this EV9 is mostly unsurprising. Being fully electric, it's quiet and it's smooth and it's easy to drive for the most part. This is the base level model, so we're rear-wheel drive only and we're down on power and torque in comparison to the other EV9s in the range. But I've got to say, driving this, I've never really felt like it needs more power. This doesn't have that party trick of being genuinely fast, being able to surprise your passengers by pinning them back in the seat when you floor it. But at the same time, it's plenty quick enough, especially, I think if you think about 0 to 100, the first 50, this thing does quite well. It's the 50 after that, I suppose, that it feels a bit more regular, I suppose. There's still enough pace there for, let's say, 80 to 120 overtaking maneuvers or something like that. It's also worth noting that this EV9 is rear-wheel drive only, and I think it helps with power delivery. You're not spinning the front wheels like you do in large SUVs with big engines. Now, it's worth pointing out with this EV9 though, is that it's a large vehicle. It's over 5 meters long and the wheelbase is big as well, 3.1 meters in fact. So the turning circle isn't fantastic. It's a wide vehicle as well, so you need to be on your game to get it nice and straight in the park. There isn't a whole lot of margin for error. But it's also a heavy car, and I've got to say the ride quality in the EV9 isn't perfect all the time. For the most part, it's good, and I think I've had such good experience with Kias in the past, having really nice balanced ride qualities. This one just, you can feel the weight a little bit at times. But all in all, it's definitely not too bad, and I'm not nitpicking per se, but it's a smaller detail to note about an otherwise fine driving experience. Now, the next big question, and probably the major question a lot of people will have, is efficiency. How efficient is this car? It's, at the end of the day, it's very, very large. So, I've been driving around town, I've been driving on the highway, I've been doing a lot of testing in this vehicle, and I've had it down to as good as 15 kilowatt hours per 100 in suburban usage, driving as efficiently as possible. But around the highway, if you're driving for less efficiency, like right now, doing a bit of filming with this car, a lot of harsh acceleration, I'm reading 22 kilowatt hours per 100, and you'll do that on the highway as well if you're loaded up and you're doing 110 k's an hour all of the time. So all in all, I would say an average to bank on would be around 17 or 18 kilowatt hours per 100. But just like every other car out there, it does depend heavily on your usage and driving style. So, does a big electric family car work in Australia? For my money, if I was putting up the dollars, I'd have to say, look at a Kia Carnival, because if you're not going to go off-road or do any of that kind of stuff, the Kia Carnival still really is the benchmark, I think, for a family car for a big, big family. But in saying that, I've really enjoyed my time with this car, and I'm going to be a little bit sad to see it go because it's an interesting vehicle. It is fully electric, and there's a lot of cool design features going on the inside. The main strength for me about this car is absolutely the packaging and the size. Because it's fully electric, there's more room inside for occupants, and there's loads of space in the second row and third row. There is a lot to like about this car. It's modern and it feels modern. If it works for you as an electric family car in terms of the driving range, the recharge times and all that sort of thing, I don't know, why not?
Up next, it's hot hatches at the limit as we take a look at the Toyota GR Corolla and Honda Civic Type R. Welcome back to Drive Review. Before we get our backside trackside, let's take a detailed look at the Toyota GR Corolla and Honda Civic Type R.
With fewer performance cars featuring manual transmissions, high-riding SUVs taking the place of nimble hatches, and electric motors replacing petrol powertrains, the last few years have been a rough ride for hot hatch fanatics. But no one told the status quo to these two Japanese holdouts. We've got arguably two of the most dedicated and most serious hot hatches in our grips, and we're going to test them on-road and on the track. The Toyota GR Corolla and Honda Civic Type R were both introduced to Australia in 2023 and are already winning fans in their respective camps. But this is the first time we've paired the two together to see which one is better. The Toyota GR Corolla brings a turbocharged 3-cylinder engine and equips an all-wheel drivetrain, while the respected Honda Civic Type R stays true to its roots with a front-drive layout. You'll pay roughly $70,000 drive away for a GR Corolla GTS if you're in Melbourne like us. For that spend, you're getting a turbocharged 1.6-litre engine from the GR Yaris hot hatch, but it's been tuned to extract more power, 221 kilowatts and 370 newton meters. These outputs are routed through an all-wheel drive system. That GR4 all-wheel drive system is electronically adjustable between 3 separate torque splits, there are limited slip differentials on both axles, and a 6-speed manual transmission is the only option. Now up front, you've got a low and wide front air apron to let in all that air, bonnet vents to let it all out again, 18-inch alloy wheels. Further back, you've got these GR4 side skirts, and it all ends in this subtle rear spoiler at the back. The car also gets 3 exhaust pipes. The 6th generation Honda Civic Type R tones down the outlandish looks of its predecessor, but still looks suitably pumped in all the right places. And like the GR Corolla, only comes in 6-speed manual specification. The powertrain has been largely pinched from its predecessor, but now outputs 235 kilowatts and 420 newton meters through the front wheels. It gets a limited slip differential over the front axle, a series of driving modes including the provision to create your own, a switchable active exhaust, 19-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres, and a set of obnoxious red seats inside the cabin. Up front, you've got a low and wide front apron, bonnet vents, these spoke alloy wheels which have red Brembo brake calipers. Down the side, you've got side splitter, and it all ends in this big black wing at the back. You've also got 3 exhaust pipes which sit underneath an accentuated rear splitter. Of these two hot hatches, the Corolla looks far more adjacent to the run-of-the-mill passenger car it's based on, but there are still intentional GR touches inside the cabin. You've got this nice small diameter leather-lined steering wheel, gear selector and handbrake as well. Now these seats that I'm sat in are covered in a nice ultra suede fabric. Other bits to get excited about in this car are the 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, which is infinitely adjustable, and that's exactly what you want in a dedicated performance car. You've also got an 8-inch display handling the infotainment, a wireless phone charger, heated seats, and then down by my feet, you've also got a set of aluminium pedals which have rubberized grips, which makes it perfect for downshifting. You don't have a center console bin, which is a massive omission in this car. But overall, there's not that much in the way of storage, which is a bit of a shame. So here we are in the back seat, and once I'm back here, I've actually got a decent amount of room given I'm quite tall. There's decent headroom, knee room could be a little bit more, but you've got dual cup holders down here, map pockets as always, and bottle holders in the doors. You've got a single 12-volt port and a USB slot, but the thing the Corolla does have going for it is it has seating for 5, whereas a Civic Type R only seats 4 people. The GR's boot is tiny. There is only 213 litres worth of stuff that you'll fit in the back here, and there's only a tyre repair kit in case of emergencies. On the other hand, the Civic Type R feels really special inside the cabin, and very red. You've got good adjustability in the steering wheel to get that right driving position. You've also got much more storage around the center console with a bin, dual deep cup holders, and a sizable tray underneath the dash with integrated wireless charger. Now elsewhere, you've got a digital instrument cluster and a 9-inch infotainment screen, which beats the Corollas in terms of size. In the second row, behind my own driving position, there's a ton more legroom, though my headroom is decidedly more constrained with that sloping roofline. There are no power ports, no map pockets, and it's even missing a 3rd seat on the bench here. This wing not only is handy for aerodynamics, but it also doubles as a boot opener. Now that paves way to a 410-litre boot capacity, and you've got a slide-across cargo blind to keep your items away from prying eyes. Underneath the boot floor, you've got a tyre repair kit, just like the Corolla, but that's enough about interiors, details, that sort of thing. Let's get into the actual drive.
Coming up, Tom and Glenn get things moving quickly as our hot hatches hit the track. Welcome back to Drive Review. Helmets are on and the lights are about to go out on our hot hatch showdown between the Toyota GR Corolla and Honda Civic Type R.
This is no ordinary Toyota Corolla. This car is an absolute firecracker, and it feels like it when you're pedaling up these steep mountain hills like we are at the moment. The engine certainly feels like it does its best work down low in the rev range, and as you get higher it sort of tapers off a little bit, but that's actually no real slight on the Corolla. It is very fast for what we know a Toyota Corolla to be. Now, one thing I particularly love is this gear shift. It is very notchy and precise, and in isolation it feels really, really good. The GR Corolla has a curb weight of 1,485 kilograms, and although that's a little bit porkier than the Civic Type R, it does have 2 extra driven wheels. But overall, it does certainly feel quite lithe and nimble around corners. Overall, the GR Corolla certainly feels like it holds its own around these tight and twisty roads, and you don't really pay the price for it either when you're around town. But let's go see how the Civic Type R fares in this terrain before heading to the track. It doesn't take long being sat inside this Civic Type R to feel like it's a more connected car overall. The steering weight is a little bit lighter in terms of its feel compared to the GR Corolla, but it is so direct, it is so pointed, and it feels so much more agile all for it. Much like the GR Corolla, this Civic Type R gets its own driving modes, which you can cycle through down here on the center console, but it ends up in an Ultimate R mode, which if you press it like I am now, a specific graphic shows up in the instrument cluster and everything gets turned up to 11. Now for me, today, overall, I think it's a Civic Type R, which just feels a little bit more connected, and you're really not paying the price for it when you're driving around town. It's just a nicer car overall, but let's see if it's backed up tomorrow at the track.
Okay, it's racetrack time, and we've got a hardcore Honda and a Toyota Tornado. We are at the Haunted Hills circuit, 1.4 kilometres, 16 turns, crazy elevation changes as you can see. Which one of these two is going to be quicker? And equally, which one is going to be more fun? We've come to the same racetrack on the same day with the same driver, and we'll put them against the clock. All right, I'm not doing a standing start each time. It's too hard. Instead, I'll roll across the start line at 50 kilometres an hour in second and boot it. Drop it back to 50 kilometres an hour, and we go.
Oh, tuck in, tuck in.
Oh, nice bit of rear end steer there. Bit wide, come on. And across the finish line. Whew. Okay, first impressions. Holy hell, this thing is a lot of fun. Oh boy, it feels like a terrier, like a bulldog. It's just so eager. So much grip too, but when you get to the limits of the grip, it just sort of gives way, and then it's up to you to bring it back under control. But I can definitely feel where the limits of the front end's grip are. I can definitely feel what the rear end is doing. But I think this thing's trick coming out of corners is you can just punch it, really let it do its thing. If this is what I spent 64,000 or close to 70,000 on road, I'd be pretty happy with what it can do around here. All right, same procedure as last time. I've got the car in plus R mode, which should give us everything that it's got to give. We'll cross the start-finish line in second gear, 50 kilometres an hour, and then we'll boot it. Whoa, straight away. I got to be more careful on the throttle. Whoa, that was a lot more work than I was expecting. A lot more violent too. The suspension doesn't really like the raised ripple strips around here. Gets the car all kind of wound up, and when you're trying to put on the power, it makes for a very, very busy office. But this engine is beautiful. My Honda's done fantastic engines for a long time. The Toyota, to me, when it was starting to get up into the higher revs, felt not breathless, but it felt like it had gone past its torque peak and it was kind of just buttoning off a little. This thing revs much harder right up to rev line. But boy, you've really got to manage the front end grip. The fact that this car's two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive compared to all-wheel drive means you've got to drive it differently. Luckily, it's a very talkative front end. You can really feel how much grip you've got. You can feel how hard the steering is working. Felt like I was starting to get in tune. This car has got more, it requires more precision. This is probably the hardest area of this car to manage, is the throttle. Around here, the corners are so tight, the elevation changes come at you so quickly. There's a lot of weight shift going on, and you need to be really aware of that to get the best out of this car. Okay, so we've come to the end of our road and track test, but before we decide on a winner, Tom has not told me the lap times that I've done.
No, we've kept it a secret. But first, before we get into that, what do you think felt like the better car out there on the track?
That is a really good question because they go about their craft in very different ways. This Toyota felt brutally quick. The Honda felt a bit more like a scalpel, you know, very sharp, very honed. If I had to guess, I would guess the Honda, but pretty close, I reckon.
Well, I can tell you that your best time in the Corolla GR was 1 minute and 3 seconds, 0.24.
Ooh, okay.
So pretty quick, but the Civic Type R best time was 1 minute and 3 seconds, 0.18.
You're kidding?
Yep.
6/100ths of a second
there was
between
not
the
a lot
two.
in it at all.
So no loser, really. I mean, hot hatches.
Not at all.
They're pretty cool right now,
No,
yeah?
both of these two, like we said in the introduction, these are some of the best hot hatches you can buy. So, yeah, whether you're going home with a Toyota or the Civic Type R, you are in really good stead.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Drive Review. For even more details on any of our tested cars, head on over to drive.com.au.